let's get to it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ben's MicroVision podcast, a podcast for general information and entertainment purposes only, not a financial advice podcast. It's the 20th episode of Ben's MicroVision podcast. I can't believe it. I'm so thankful to each of you for watching. Please do like, subscribe, all the rest of it, add a comment, give me your feedback, and help keep the energy up, and we'll keep the show as exciting as possible. In this episode, we're going to touch on automotive and the military and see what's happening in those areas. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, welcome everybody. Episode 20th episode special, presented by myself and brought to you by LaserRoasted.com, my specialty coffee company. If you never ordered coffee from Laser Roasted, please go ahead, give it a try. You will love it. It's a sensory experience unlike anything you've ever experienced before. If you have not seen this disclaimer, this is what it is. I'm here doing my best to provide you information, but if I make a mistake, that can happen, and I'm not responsible for any of your decisions. Here's a story that came out this week. Rivian CEO Tesla is going all in on cameras, but self-driving cars still need LIDAR. Elon Musk says self-driving cars only need to rely on cameras and not other sensors like LIDAR. But Rivian CEO RJ Scaringe says LIDAR is definitely beneficial. Scaringe says that LIDAR has become much cheaper over the years and can do things that cameras can't. Rivian CEO RJ Scaringe says his company has a different view on LIDAR and its relevance to achieving autonomous driving than Tesla. Our view is that it's definitely beneficial, and our approach to sensors has been that we need to rapidly build our foundation model as fast as possible. Scaringe told the guest host and journalist Joanna Stern that there is a real benefit and that he wouldn't rule it out, including it in a self-driving vehicle's multi-sensor system. The debate over LIDAR started during an earlier development period when the models being run had trouble processing inputs from different sensors and cameras, he added. Now what's happened is that we no longer run the models like that, so the models benefit from the maximum amount of information on the front of the model, Scaringe said. The cost of the LIDAR used to be tens of thousands of dollars. It's now low, a couple of $100, he added. It's a really great sensor that can do things that cameras can't. Now, where have we heard about a couple of $100 as being the sweet spot?
Volume comes when cost comes down. And that's exactly where we're focused. Performance is a given. We'll have the best point cloud you can have. That's not the differentiator. The differentiator is it's a smaller package, it's lower power consumption, and it's 40 to 50% lower cost when you compare like to like in terms of overall point cloud performance. That means for the OEM, you can start to put it on not just premium options on premium vehicles. You can put this into the more value segment vehicles, which is where we want to be. These sensors, this next generation, which is scheduled for a 2028 launch, these are targeted to be $200 or less in the corners, $300 for long range. That's this next generation. Our roadmap brings that further down. And that's how you go from being a premium option to mass adoption. You really drive the performance, but you also drive the cost where it needs to be for the adoption of the technology.
Also this week, hedge fund manager Ross Gerber went on Bloomberg and shared his thoughts about Tesla's full self-driving and its limitations.
But I think if you look at the comp package, you can see how confused the company is and how many directions the company's going. And instead, they really need to focus on the main thing that they need to solve, which is full self-driving. And Elon says it himself, if we can't solve full self-driving, there's no value in Tesla. And I agree, and even more so today than in the past. And so when you look at the problems with full self-driving, which I've analyzed now and used for years, I've been testing full self-driving for 5 years now. I'm convinced that they need to add LIDAR and they need to add more sensors and hardware to the vehicle to get it to work. And we know that it works with Waymo. I've taken Waymo through all kinds of tests now, and it drives better than humans. And so if we know it works with Waymo, Tesla and Elon need to sort of like get off their stubborn, egotistical high horse and start accepting that full self-driving doesn't work, and every day we fall further behind because he thinks it's a software solution, and it's not. It's a hardware solution, and he could solve this in 3 months if he just accepted that LIDAR needed to be put on the car. And that's where we're at, and so I don't see full self-driving getting solved anytime soon.
If you're curious about Ross Gerber, he runs a fund, Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management, and they have $2.59 billion of assets under management. His portfolio looks like this, about what you'd expect. Heavy technology, NVIDIA, Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Alphabet, Netflix. It goes on. A good performing portfolio, to be sure. If we agree that LIDAR is required to solve full self-driving, and Waymo provides the premier robotaxi experience because it has LIDAR on each of its vehicles, then I think the question becomes, what LIDAR sensors are going to be used on mass market vehicles that proliferate in the millions around the world? I had previously reported in earlier episodes about how the Chinese government funds its LIDAR companies, and part of the rules about all that is that the companies have to cooperate with the Chinese intelligence services. That means that the data they collect could be brought back to the Chinese Communist Party in ways that the people who own the devices may not even be aware of. So looking at the landscape, if we assume for the moment that the Chinese-made LIDAR companies would be shut out of the U.S. domestic market for national security type reasons, then you've got Luminar, MVIS in Israel, Ava, and MicroVision. Each of the companies that you see listed here wishes to serve the U.S. domestic and European markets with LIDAR systems that enable full self-driving or automated driving as we understand it. Now, I'm going to share just some personal opinions about the relative position of each of these companies to achieving a mass market LIDAR penetration. Okay, first one is Luminar. Luminar has had some challenges associated with their financial position, and they were first to market. They got, I guess MVIS might have been first to market, but Luminar's got to market with Volvo. They got that EX90, and they put the Luminar LiDAR up in the roof of that EX90. And for whatever reason, they never activated it as part of the ADAS system. So, I don't know how you say we're going to go with Luminar when the one company that did go with Luminar never actually embedded the sensor as part of the self-driving capability. They just basically used it to do some kind of data collection, but they never flipped it on. So, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence that that's going to be a good way to go. And of course, they lose money on every single sensor that they sell to Volvo. So it's a problematic setup. They've got a new generation product that they're working on. We don't know when that's going to be shown. We don't know what kind of technology it uses and how scalable that's going to be for manufacturing, etc. So, they have done some good things, but now they're in sort of a problematic space. Ava, they have market cap that eclipses MicroVision, I think, and MVIS maybe put together. They're very well valued, but the technology is frequency modulated continuous wave. It's maybe a little bit too complex to solve the problem that the OEMs are looking to solve. And in episode 6 of this show, I did a deep dive analysis of frequency modulated continuous wave versus time of flight across all the different dimensions, so you could compare them and see what's most likely to win in the mass market space. My guess is that Glenn may have been thinking about MVIS when he was talking about how LIDAR adoption so far had been limited to a premium option on a premium level vehicle. MVIS has gotten their LIDAR into a BMW 7 Series that's sold in certain markets, but the system hasn't proliferated any more broadly than that just yet. They got some design wins into some robo-taxi platforms and things of that nature, and I'm sure they're doing their level best. I would classify MVIS as a worthy competitor that may have a chance to garner some market share here. So that leaves MicroVision with their $200 MVIS sensor, their $300 Maven sensor, and their proven leadership in the automotive active safety space with Glenn taking over as CEO. So, one of the things that I think has been on people's minds is, what's Glenn's approach to the market going to be? How's this going to look different than what we'd seen with the previous leadership? And do we have a better chance of winning than we did before? If you want to get an idea about the path to market for MicroVision, now that Glenn DeVos has taken over as CEO, it's probably a good idea to spend some time over on the Aptiv website and try to learn as much as you can about the active safety and user experience group that he led. And a lot of the terminology that you'll see here is very familiar with some of the language that we've heard from Glenn in his initial introductory speeches. In particular, here's one about satellite architecture for advanced safety. Satellite architecture is Aptiv's flexible and scalable approach to advanced safety. It's just one example of our differentiated approach to architecture, which helps us optimize the performance and cost of advanced safety solutions while reducing mass and complexity. Aptiv can tailor these systems to customers' individual requirements, helping commercialize advanced solutions and democratize them as they mature. Aptiv's approach takes the intelligence out of the sensors and centralizes it into a powerful active safety domain controller. This significantly improves the flexibility, scalability, and performance of the system. Some of the specific benefits include improved sensing and perception performance, greater scalability of sensors and compute, more flexible sensor packaging, up to 30% lower vehicle mass, simplified electrical architecture, reduced warranty and sustaining cost, and simplified lifecycle management. So if you were at all getting whiplash about how Glenn was taking all of the special stuff out of the MicroVision sensor and saying that's just going to live on the domain controller, well, now you understand that the perception software that MicroVision has created is valuable and differentiating, and it will likely be great in industrial and defense. But the automotive intelligence layer is probably going to live with companies like Aptiv, where Glenn came from. And so all he wants is the lowest cost sensor feeding the point cloud into the domain controller. It's going to be run by one of these tier 1s. Here's a video that was embedded on that same page describing the satellite architecture. It was produced 4 years ago when Glenn was the boss of the active safety group within Aptiv.
How do we create active safety that's both intelligent and optimized? By designing the vehicle's brain and nervous system to work seamlessly together. Aptiv's satellite architecture and centralized compute-based approach uses up to 5 satellite radars and a satellite camera for a 360-degree field of view. With radars that offer design flexibility in critical front-end areas for styling and engine cooling that are up to 70% smaller, reducing overall mass by 30% and offering flexibility where space is at a premium. Driver monitoring systems add another level of safety, ensuring driver awareness. Each radar and camera feeds back to the active safety domain controller, which centralizes the intelligence and fuses or integrates the data back from all of those sensors to make intelligent decisions. Aptiv's single-step fusion can confirm the cyclist is there and plan accordingly. Despite the large truck fully blocking the camera line of sight and limiting radar returns. Centralization also simplifies over-the-air software updates to easily add new capabilities and services. Flexible, scalable, ensuring the highest performance for the lowest cost, and with radars that work in all weather and lighting conditions, using a fraction of the power and compute of other sensors. Aptiv is collaborating with OEMs to apply this satellite architecture and central compute-based approach to fit their unique requirements for active safety systems. Expected in more than 10 million vehicles by 2025, Aptiv's ADAS solution allow OEMs to innovate and compete over the life of a vehicle, and build a solid foundation for higher levels of automated driving.
So I would say, coming from Aptiv, running that active safety group, promoting this satellite architecture concept, immediately applying the satellite architecture concept to MicroVision's technology and products, suggests to me that Glenn appreciates the role of the Tier 1 in the automotive go-to-market strategy. So my guess is that the primary path to market will not be direct to the OEM, but rather via partnership with your Bosch, ZF, Aptiv of the universe. So let's take a look at that world real quick. Here's a list of automotive Tier 1 suppliers that serve the ADAS market for vehicle OEMs. These are the big players in the space. You've got Bosch, Valeo, ZF, Continental, Denso, Aptiv, Magna, and Mobileye. So these 8 parties could help fulfill MicroVision's go-to-market strategy by taking the LiDAR sensors and integrating them into their own offering that the OEM goes and incorporates. And we see that as sort of the expected way to get to market for the current ADAS type solutions. It's my expectation that probably that playbook will be used for MicroVision, seeing as Glenn is coming from that world. I want to share this very special video where we learn about how the laser-roasted kaiju mascot came to be. It's not just me telling you that having your beans roasted fresh to order is the way to go. Look at these reviews. Here's one from Morning Uplink. Chef OK says, I really enjoyed the Morning Uplink. Excellent medium light roast flavor, not bitter at all. Definitely a fresh roast and delivered fast. Thanks, Laser Roasted. No, Chef OK, thank you. And thanks everybody who's bought on Laser Roasted, left a review, and shared with your friends. Here's another quick video from Aptiv about their ADAS solutions. You'll note their ultra-tier features LiDAR.
Given the increasing competitiveness of ADAS, why should OEMs choose Aptiv's ADAS platform? Aptiv's platform is open and flexible, delivering high performance optimized at the system level to efficiently scale across an OEM's broad fleet mix from entry-level to premium features and across levels of autonomy. Each variant of the platform offers flexible, configurable solutions that can easily meet individual OEM requirements. Aptiv's full system insights and capabilities help us reduce complexity and costs while increasing efficiency. and our proven track record of commercializing ADAS programs, including being the first technology provider to deliver a turnkey, hands-free driving solution, distinguishes us as a partner of choice.
Here's another view of this. Of interest are the software applications that Aptiv includes as part of their ADAS software portfolio, service-oriented ADAS feature stack spanning urban, L0 to L2+, and highway, L0 to L3, basic and advanced parking features. So this is the software that takes the sensor input and decides how to operate the vehicle. Software perception is another thing offered by Aptiv. Includes radar and camera perception, sensor fusion augmented by machine learning, multimodal localization engine, and mapping system. So there's their software portfolio, and the hardware portfolio shown here is the L2 Plus configuration with a camera, driver monitoring system, high performance computer for ADAS, AI ML capable corner radar, AI ML capable forward facing radar, and of course the LIDAR is necessary for the level 3. So my supposition is that Glenn's offering to these tier 1s would be to say you can replace some of these cameras and radars with the LIDARs and reduce the total number of system components in your ADAS solution while offering better performance, etc., etc. So while we wait for Glenn to give us a kind of State of the Union of MicroVision type address, which we may need to wait till November for, when they do the Q3 results, you can tide yourself over by going through the Aptiv material and trying to understand where this guy's coming from, what's his approach to market going to be, and how's he going to position MicroVision and leverage his understanding of the entire automotive safety sales cycle to help get MicroVision to market faster. All right, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the defense segment. Some interesting stuff going on over there. The CEO of Kopin gave an interview with Alpha Wolf Impact YouTube channel where he shared some interesting information about the SBMC program.
Most of these types of programs that are this big will have a prime, a second prime, and subs below them, just because the volumes are so exciting. And I think the Army is also wary of having a single supplier like Microsoft and the IVAS 1.2 as an example. So we're happy with that. We're more than willing and able to compete. We have built microdisplays for many decades. And we, like I said, built 4 different types. We invented a 5th. We're the only US company right now, to my knowledge, with a production micro LED anyway. We have a good position. We just have to execute. But to be clear, as these prototypes go back to the Army for review, they will not have a color micro LED in them until it's ready. And that's okay. We understand that. We are engaged in those prototype phases, but ultimately we are focused on being the production supply of a color micro LED, which is hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue for Kopin. We're also working with the Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment Act Office, or IBAS Office, and we're working with them to create funding for a United States sovereign production line here, either in Massachusetts or another state. We're working with them to create that production line for production in late 27 and 2028.
So a few data points came to light in that conversation. One is there's hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue to the microdisplay provider in the production systems for SBMC. 2, there is no micro LED inside the prototype systems that Rivet and Anduril are going to be producing and delivering by April of the coming year. Okay? The third is the micro LED capability that the government is paying Kopin to produce won't be ready until end of 2027, sometime maybe 2028, we don't know. So the notion that the government will just drop in a micro LED display to displace whatever's in these prototype systems is maybe not entirely accurate, since the entire augmented reality glasses would need to be redesigned from the ground up. The electronics, the display, the optics, the waveguide, all this stuff is very, very tightly knit and interconnected. And so it's just not accurate to say they're just going to drop it in and displace whatever was in there, and then hundreds of millions of dollars accrue to micro LED. I don't see it. I don't think it's entirely accurate. But at the same time, CEO of Kopin, credit where it's due. He's going out there and pounding the pavement, trying to tell a story about how his company is going to get hundreds of millions of dollars by virtue of being the soldier safety and situational awareness display that, helps our armed forces be better, safer, more lethal, more effective. So he's out there, he's telling the story, and it's not hidden. So, maybe we could learn something from that. Okay, these are the daily holdings for the Spider S&P Kensho Future Security ETF, aka FIGHT. And we can see both Kopin and MicroVision are in here. Kopin has a $1.19 million allocation, and MicroVision is holding steady at about $1.08 million allocation. It's almost time for the annual AUSA trade show in Washington, D.C. I got to go to a few of those myself, and it's always a great time. And this year, Wilcox and Rivet will be showing their SBMC system, and we can see what this is going to look like. It's got a variety of sensors, looks like a night vision setup. I'm not sure what's on the left-hand side there, but basically it's a helmet rig with a pair of eyeglasses for the augmented reality content, and I can't wait to learn more about this, and maybe we'll see what the eagle eye looks like at the same time, and that would be very newsworthy itself. Another market research report came out, and you'll never guess, the spatial computing market is forecast by Allied Market Research to grow from $135 billion in 2024 to reach over $1 trillion by 2034, growing at a CAGR of 22.6% from 2025 to 2034. Spatial computing involves the use of technologies and solutions that enable machines to interact with the physical world through spatial awareness and real-time data processing. It integrates advanced technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, computer vision, sensors, AI, and 5G to create immersive and interactive digital experiences. Spatial computing is used across various industries, including healthcare, manufacturing, retail, education, architecture, and defense. The market is witnessing rapid growth and innovation, driven by advancements in connectivity such as 5G, increased demand for immersive technologies, and enterprise digital transformation, offering significant opportunities for future investment and adoption. So here's a whole market research report. You can buy it for $3,000, but you can get the gist of it just from this one page here. What strikes me about this is, you may remember my episodes 3 and 4, and going back a little ways, I was talking about spatial intelligence for a connected world as, a killer tagline that the company should consider, because it's broader in scope from the current one, which is safe mobility at the speed of life. Now, if the focus is automotive, and it's just automotive, and we want to stick with automotive, then sure, safe mobility at the speed of life is pretty good. But spatial intelligence for a connected world, when you got this tailwind of $1 trillion market over the next 8 years starting to take shape, is something we can think about maybe. I think that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for sticking with me for 20 episodes of Ben's MicroVision podcast. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you and all the wonderful feedback and the motivation to keep sharing and keep gathering all this information and presenting it to you. I appreciate you, the viewers and the commenters, and everybody who's got a kind word to say. It means a lot and helps keep me going while we wait for some news from the actual company to be generated. There's plenty of news out there in the ether, so I can't wait for a press release, but without a press release, there's still information and we can try and put it together as best we're able. So thanks for sticking with me for 20 episodes. Thanks for shopping on Laser Roasted. Thanks for reviewing your coffee and your jerky when you get it. Let's have 20 more episodes. What do you say? All right, we'll see you next Saturday.